there's points in time where I'm like, Trout's not going to get any better. And it just looks like he keeps getting better. And I'm like, how is this possible? What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Dillard, bringing you guys another podcast. This is the Barnyard podcast, and I am here with my co-host again, Clemente. How are you doing, sir?
Oh man, feeling a lot better than I was last week. I tell you that for sure.
What did you have? You had a strep throat or something like that?
Yeah, I had like a really bad case of strep throat, but thank God antibiotics exist because now I feel a lot better a week later.
That's great to hear. I actually just got over a cold, like literally yesterday. I'm not even kidding. So
Oh
you
damn.
might have given me something. I don't know, Clemente. You might have given me something because that seems a little weird. But yeah, we haven't done a podcast in a while, but we have a lot of stuff to talk about. We decided that the first thing we wanted to start off on, and it's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now. It happened on April 16th, so it's been a while. But there was a disaster in the Bronx, as I would call it. The Rays were playing the Yankees. Rays were up, I believe, 8-2 in the Bronx, and fans were throwing baseballs onto the field. They were throwing so many baseballs onto the field that the officials had to step in and stop the game momentarily. And yeah, the Yankees ended up losing that game and dropping the record to 5-8. So there's not really much I want to talk about it other than the fact that I think people are absolutely children. I posted a video that ended up getting like 500,000 views on Twitter. So I got to see all sorts of replies, all sorts of really, really just bad replies. I mean, if people were straight up like, oh, well, this is BS, like, this is not okay, like, yeah, I'm all on board for that. But then there were like a few comments that were like, okay, well, maybe the Yankees should play better. Maybe they should, get their head out of their butts, or, they should play better baseball and start winning again. And I'm like, there's no excuse to throw baseballs on the field, dude. Like, come on now. Like, you could seriously hurt somebody. Like the outfielders. I mean, if someone actually has a good arm and actually hits someone in the head, like that's dangerous. Like it doesn't matter how fast you throw it. Like that could end up killing someone, especially you hit them in the temple or right in the dome. Like that's not anything to play around with. So I just always have to laugh at people who are like, oh, well, the Yankees should play better. I'm spending my hard-earned money. I'm tired of my team losing, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, you little spoiled brat. I'm sorry that your team wins constantly and your team has 27 world championships and your team constantly goes to playoffs and they hardly ever miss the playoffs, especially nowadays. I'm sorry that this team is so blessed. I will say that this team isn't the 1920 Yankees, the 1930s, the 40s, the 50s. This isn't that time. And also, I'm kind of getting a little bit tired and annoyed of, them comparing this team to old teams such as in like, the Jeter, Bernie Williams days and stuff like Jorge Posada and stuff like that, like the 2000 Yankees, 90s, early 2000s, kind of late 2000s a little bit. It just gets really annoying hearing them compare about these same teams when they're totally differently built teams. And they're like, oh, well, in my day, these guys weren't made out of glass, or in my day, they were this and that. And it's like, dude, you can't compare like different eras like that. You know what I mean? Like they're totally different players. Like, baseball wasn't played the same as it was now. Like baseball, in my opinion, has never been so competitive. With all the technology that aids pitchers and that aids even fielders and aids, the hitters, there's so much more technology than there was during that time. But I guess the point I'm getting onto is that I get kind of tired of hearing people complain about all these players and such, and that, baseball was better back in their time and stuff. And it's like, that's completely biased. Like, that's completely subjective. You know what I mean? Those are the same type of people that try to nail into your head that baseball was better back then in the day. And they were like, you don't understand baseball. And it's like, come on. Like, don't tell me I don't understand baseball when I've been watching it since I was 4 years old, since 2001. I've been watching it, what, 2 decades now. You know what I mean? It makes no sense. It's dumb, but as far as the baseball stuff, yeah, it's just people need to stop throwing baseballs on the field. It's not cool. I don't care what your excuse is. If you want to make an excuse about it, then I'm going to call you a spoiled brat. That's what I think you are, honestly, because there's no excuse. I mean, I don't care how successful you are, how good you are. There's no reason to be acting like that and throwing a temper tantrum like a 4-year-old child. So I don't know. What do you think about it?
I just think the people who did throw cans on the field probably look stupid now, considering the Yankees have like been playing a lot well recently, and I think they've won like 7 of their last 10 games,
Mm-hmm.
and are only 4 games back in the division. and it's literally May 1st. I feel like people are a bit overreactive, which I can understand since last season was 60 games, and each game meant a lot more than a regular 162 game season does. So maybe it'll take some time to like readjust to a regular baseball season. But like, come on, man, it's barely May 1st. It's way too soon to panic and start throwing stuff on the field.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because I know this is just baseball in general, and obviously I'm a Yankee fan, so I'm trying to like not talk about them 24/7. But yeah, like you're completely right. I mean, it's only May. Like we just played our first game of May today, and well, when the podcast comes out yesterday technically, but you guys get what I mean. But like even like Stanton, through the first 3 weeks had like a 60 WRC plus, and then this last week he's on an 8-game hitting streak. And I think he's hit 3 home runs, and he's just killing it. And he's raised his WRC plus from I think a 60 to a 133 right now. It's in the 130s, so that's why I always am like, guys, like you gotta stop complaining and moaning and just within like 1 month of baseball, let alone like 2 weeks. Because whenever that happened with fans throwing in the baseballs on the field, it was barely even 2 weeks. Like we had just gotten past 2 weeks of baseball. And it's only mid-April, barely mid-April. And we still have, May, June, July, August, and September, and actually a little bit of October because the regular season extends a little bit into October. But, I'm just getting really sick and tired of the overreactions, dude. You know how hard it is being a Yankee fan sometimes, not because they're successful. I'm very blessed that I'm a fan of a team that, is constantly wins. And even if they don't make the postseason, they're always like in the 80s. They never have like a losing record. So I see a lot of great baseball. So I don't have to suffer too much. But the thing that I really despise, like gets on my nerves, is all the overreactions. Like it's insane, man. Like you probably don't even know what overreactions are as a Rangers fan. You just kind of are like, you appreciate when your team is good, and you're like, oh, well, they're bad, and they're good, they're good. Like there's no overreactions. You just wait and you let the season play out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think another thing is the fact that the Yankees probably like one of the biggest fan bases in not just baseball, but like in all sports. So you have like a lot more voices, and when you have a lot more voices, you're gonna get a lot more people who are expressing their displeasure. I mean, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I've probably experienced the same stuff as you when it comes to like a giant fan base overreacting to like something that most fan bases wouldn't overreact to because of the long historic success of the franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So moving on, we're going to talk about the Royals. The Royals are.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. That's the best way to put it. I don't even know what to say, to be honest. I mean, the Royals are leading the AL Central with a 16-9 record. They technically have the best record in baseball in terms of winning percentage, with a 640 winning percentage. The next closest team to them is the Red Sox with a 630 winning percentage. I don't know what to make out of this team. I went to Fangraphs and I brought up all these stats. So the Royals are 14th in average, 22nd in on-base percentage, 17th in slugging, 17th in OPS, 19th in WOBA, 19th in WRC+, and 20th in F4. Not great, not terrible. It's kind of middle of the road, I would say. I mean, the F4 could be a lot better, but the average isn't too bad, even though I don't mostly go off average with the slugging. I mean, 17th and also 17th in OPS is pretty middle of the road, I would say. But then you look at 21st in RBIs, 26th in home runs, which is kind of weird that they're that high in slugging, but they're not hitting a lot of home runs. They have a +6 point differential, which is, I mean, that means they're winning a lot of games, but like all their games are pretty close though. You have guys like Salvador Perez, Carlos Santana, Michael Taylor, Whit Merrifield, Andrew Benintendi, all have a WRC plus above 100. So you have some pretty good sneaky hitters, especially Andrew Benintendi. I like him a lot. I know he had his fair struggles here and there with the Red Sox, but I think he's a pretty overall solid player who could build himself upward. And then I also took into consideration the Royals pitching. So the Royals pitching is 19th in ERA, 12th in FIP, which that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Like that's something that I actually looked at and was like, oh, well, that kind of caught me off guard for a second. But then I see 24th in WHIP. So, they're allowing a lot of walks. They're walking a lot of guys. 22nd in Sierra, which would probably explain, 24th. And that's probably the most distinguishable thing to look at is the 22nd and Sierra, because then you see the 24th and Whip and you're like, oh, the walks, because Sierra doesn't like walks. It doesn't hate it, but it's like walks are bad because then it gives you more opportunities for traffic and more opportunities for the other team to score. And then you look at the 12th and FIP, so that's why I kind of think it's like in the middle of the road there. And then it's 13th and F4 for their pitching stuff, so it's like, like their pitching really hasn't been that bad either, but it's like they have the best record in the American League. You know, for a team that has the best record in the American League, you'd think that they would have a much better, F4 for both sides of the spectrum, or even if there's one side that's falling, the other side's there to pick them up, Kind of like, for example, best example I could give was like the Yankees of 2019, where their pitching staff had a lot of trouble, giving up runs constantly, but it didn't matter because no team could compete with their offense, at least in the regular season, because they ended up winning 103 games. But I don't know what to make out of this. I don't watch the Royals a whole lot. To be fair, I just never really have. The last time I was really interested in watching the Royals was their championship runs in the the early 2000s, or the early 2010s to mid 2010s, like 2015. So, but I don't know. What do you think? Have you picked up on any information or seen anything that might tell us why the Royals have been playing such good baseball?
Well, I mean, just looking for the stats, like you said, I mean, their Pythagorean is at 12-12, which is 500. So it seems like the Royals are outplaying the peripherals, and it feels like they're going to eventually crash back down to earth. Like, man, it's been surprising just how great they are. I mean, 1 month of the season, I bet you like literally 0 people have said that the Royals would have the best record in the league. Mm-hmm. And like, I was talking about Dunny Duffy, man. Like, he has an ERA under 1 right now. Mm-hmm. And in 4 starts, he has an ERA around 0.40. So, and when you compare that to like his last few seasons where he's been struggling, he's just having a great, surprising bounce back season for the Royals, at least thus far for 4 starts.
Well, that's what I was exactly thinking. I was like, they're basically outperforming their expected numbers and how well they're expected to perform. But the best example I can give you is the Seattle Mariners of 2019. I don't know if you remember much about the Mariners of 2019, but they ended up starting the season 13-2. By the time that April 11th came around, they were 13-2. Then they ended up finishing the season with a 68-94 record. So I don't think the Royals are that bad. I think they're going to be in the 70 win column. So I don't think they're going to be as bad as the Mariners, but they're definitely going to fall back to earth. There's no way they're going to be able to keep this level of play up for, another 4 or 5 months now. So that's pretty much all I have on the matter. Outside of the Royals, I definitely want to talk about Mike Trout. I know you wanted to talk about him. What more is there to say, man? He just keeps blowing up my mind. Like, I there's points in time where I'm like, Trout's not going to get any better. And it just looks like he keeps getting better. And I'm like, how is this possible? He leads the league in average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, WOBA, WRC+, plus, and F4. So these are the stats that I think are really interesting to look at. So Trout has a 425 average. Nobody else in the league outside of him has an average above 400. Trout has a 523 on-base percentage. Nobody has an on-base percentage above 500. Trout has a 539 WOBA. Nobody has a WOBA above 500. Trout is the first to reach a 2-point F4, which isn't surprising at all. And the most interesting thing that I looked at was in 2020, which obviously he said that he wasn't happy with his performance. It was one of his worst seasons, which his worst season is like better than like the majority of players, like at least 95% in the league. But still, in 2020, he played 53 games. He posted a 2.5 F4. But this year, he's only played 21 games, and he's posted a 2 F4. Like, dude, how? Like, in 21 games, like, and he's not even playing like spectacular defense or anything. Like, that's just all offensive production by itself. So when I look at that, I'm just like, man, like 162 games, what would that be? Like a 14 F4 if he was at this pace? Like, that's nuts. That's insane, which I don't think he's going to. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to say it anymore. If he does a 14 F4, I'm just going to be like, okay. I'm not even going to be surprised if he does that at this point, but Yeah, let me know your thoughts on Trout because it blows my mind how great this man is.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his stats and just looking at his numbers, it's just hard to process sometimes. Like, man, how good is this guy? I mean, it's hard to say in the moment because we're living it right now. But like, man, whenever Trout's done playing baseball, you'll be like, man, did we just see the greatest baseball player of all time play his entire career? Were we alive to see that? It's just crazy. I mean, his OPS plus, it's 265, man, 265. 100, it's double in average. Holy man.
That's just I just yeah, that's the point. Like, I was talking with actually one of my professors like on a Zoom call just because he wanted to see my project, and I actually, interestingly enough, I did a project over Mike Trout. Like I did like a highlight reel, I did a podcast, I did just a podcast by myself. I also did like some Twitter tweets and a feature story and a bunch of other stuff about him. And he was like, "You really like this Mike Trout guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, who couldn't like this Mike Trout guy? Like, are you living under a rock? Like, come on now. Like, this man is crazy." And like you said, it's just like that's why I never try to miss an Angels game. Like people told me, they're like, "You're secretly an Angels fan," and I'm like, "No, I have allegiance to one team right here." But I watch so many Angels games because we're not ever guaranteed another Mike Trout again in our lifetimes. Like, this man just makes everything look so easy. And I just don't want to miss out on his greatness. So I always have to watch Trout games every second that I can. Outside of that, I know you wanted to talk about the Bumgarner situation. So I'll go ahead and let you explain that and tell me what you think.
Well, just to refresh people's memories, Bumgarner threw an unofficial no-hitter last week, but since it was a 7-inning game because the Diamondbacks had a doubleheader, I guess Major League Baseball doesn't count that as like an official no-hitter because it doesn't reach the 9-inning minimum, which is pretty stupid, man. I really don't get it. I mean, you're playing a complete game. It's not Bumgarner's fault that he didn't get to pitch the 2 extra innings that you need in order to qualify for a no-hitter. So I really don't get what baseball is doing. I think ultimately they're hurting themselves. They're shooting themselves in the foot by excluding Madison Bumgarner's game from from a no-hitter list. So I don't know. It was just stupid. It was something that really annoyed me as well, and I don't see why his game wouldn't be counted as no-hitter because he literally pitched the entire game and didn't give up a single hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not his fault. It's not his fault that it wasn't 9 innings. It's just it was out of his control. He did what he's supposed to do. It's just stupid, man. I'm frustrated. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I will say on the matter, because I saw the tweets about it, and I saw when they tweeted, they were like, MLB was making it official that because the what was crazy was that series, that doubleheader series against the Braves. The Braves in 14 innings only got 1 hit. Like, that's bad. Like, that's rough. That is so rough. But kind of answer your question about Bumgarner and his no-hitter. I think at the bare minimum, what they should have done was label it as a no-hitter and put like an asterisk, kind of not like an asterisk to like the Astros, like their cheating scandal, but more just to put like an asterisk, be like, okay, this is a no-hitter. It is a no-hitter, but it's only a 7-inning no-hitter. And they should label that. They should be like, okay, well, if we're not going to label it a no-hitter, like a traditional no-hitter, at least label it a 7-inning no-hitter. Like, you don't have to label it a traditional no-hitter. I get that because at the end of the day, it's hard enough already to go 9 innings and record a no-hitter, and they're so exclusive, like there's so many exclusive spots in sports, and I think no-hitters are like one of my favorites in sports. But at least at the bare minimum, instead of just flat out saying, oh, we're not going to count it, and just pretend like Bumgarner didn't go out there and throw a no-hitter. And I don't think it's fair to punish Bumgarner, for 7-inning doubleheaders. I mean, it is what it is. I understand why they do the 7-inning doubleheaders, although I'm not really the biggest fan of them. And the same with the extra innings rule, especially as a Yankee fan, dude. Like, I thought I was fine with the 7-inning, the 7-inning, or not the 7-inning, the extra innings rule this year. And we talked about that too. And I was like, well, if it's, a way to keep guys healthy and such and keep the games moving faster, I'm like, okay, well, if it's just for this year, cool. And, with COVID protocols, like, okay, cool. But now that my team has lost, 3 games, I think our record is 1-3 in extra innings, 1-4. And I'm just like, I can't. I'm really starting to hate the extra innings rule, but then at the same time, it's like, well, you should have taken the opportunities that were given to you. But yeah, at the bare minimum, I think MLB should really look into this and instead just either put an asterisk or just say this isn't a traditional no hitter, but it is at least a 7 inning no hitter, and leave it at that, and at least give Bumgarner the respect he deserves. Because yes, you're right, he pitched a very good game, and I mean, the Diamondbacks in general pitched really good for that doubleheader series in general, just because the Braves only had, one hit in 14 innings, which is just, yikes, that's rough. But other than that, we have another topic. This is the last topic we're going to go ahead and end off, and this is another topic that Clemente wanted to do. Go ahead and let you talk about it. The Dodgers and Padres, excuse me.
Man, I just want to thank the Dodgers and Padres for bringing entertainment back to baseball. Man, it's been banger after banger when it comes to their games, man. They really make it worth my time staying up past 12 a.m. my time to watch these games. Yeah, West Coast games, man, they suck for people who don't live in the West Coast because they start super late and they end super late as well. But man, the Dodgers and Padres, man, they've been putting out banger after banger when it comes to games so far, and it's great for baseball as well, because I think one of baseball's biggest problems is not being able to reach out or not be able to grow their audience and get younger fans involved. But the Dodgers and Padres have done a great job at providing entertaining games, especially in April and May, early on in the season, where baseball probably takes a backseat to the NFL draft or the NBA and stuff. So I just want to give them out. I just want to give them a shout out for just bring entertainment for casuals.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the series has been nuts. The first series in San Diego at Petco Park, Mookie Betts had that amazing catch. I'm like, oh my god! If that's how this whole year is going to be between this team, these series are going to be nuts. You also saw that Clayton Kershaw and Jerickson Profar had an exchange awards too. That was interesting. I can't remember what Kershaw thing. I think Kershaw said something along. I could be wrong, but I think he said something along the lines of criticizing Profar's swing, because I think they labeled it as a catcher's interference, and and Kershaw was like, "That's a weak swing. That's BS." And I'm like, dude, let's go. This rivalry, let's just start it off right this year. They're gonna. I guarantee. It almost feels like it's a guarantee there's going to be at least one bench clearing this year between those two teams, because they're so most of our lifetimes, just because for most of our lifetimes the Padres really haven't been that great. It's never been a big rival. For us, it's always been the Dodgers and Giants that have been the biggest rivals, the biggest shows on turf for the West Coast. But now it's completely changed. Now it's back to the Dodgers and Padres. I think that's the best rivalry, just because, Los Angeles and San Diego are so close to each other, too, on a geographical standpoint. But then, the Padres, after getting beat, I know that they lost the first series in San Diego. Then they came to L.A. and beat them in L.A. and won the series in L.A. And right now the Dodgers are on a pretty big losing streak right now. I think it's Corey Seager's been lost at the plate. They still don't have Cody Bellinger. I don't even know when they're going to get him back. I mean, I know they've been saying they're trying to get him back for May, but some people are saying they don't think he's going to come back till early June. I think it has something to do with his leg, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But, I mean, I've seen it too. Dodgers fans are starting to do it now, man. They're starting to do what Yankee fans did. And I'm just going to be chill. You guys are the Los Angeles freaking Dodgers. If you guys don't think you're not going to win at least 100 games this season, what are you doing? There's no way. That team is way too talented. Just like Trout, where we kind of are just amazed, every year, what he's able to do and get better over time with age. I don't understand how the Dodgers year and year and year get better. I think they continue to get better every single year. 2018 was kind of weird because the Red Sox, that Red Sox team was absurd. That's probably the best Red Sox team I've ever seen in my lifetime, to be honest with you. And I've seen some pretty good Red Sox teams as a Yankee fan, with David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez and such. But that was a really good Red Sox team. But, outside of that, even though I know that they lost the postseason to the Nationals in 2019, it happens, things like that happen. And then, 2020, they won the World Series, and, a lot of people are expecting them to repeat again, win 2 in a row. And if they do, I really won't be all that surprised. I hope it's not it's a cakewalk. I hope there's some teams like the Braves and the Padres that give them a run for their money. Even the Mets. I mean, the Mets. I want them to. Like, I could go on and on about the Mets, man. Like, have you watched them? Like, Jesus. Like, come on. Like, I made a video, and it's gonna look really bad. But I made a video where I predicted all the records or around the record range where I thought the Mets were going to be at. And it's looking like that's going to be a big, fat, freezing cold takes at the end of the season. Because, man, like, I could talk about Jacob deGrom and that BS not happening. And I could talk about the way that they look good on paper, but they're not swinging the bats right. But, that's another story on its own, another day, another topic. But, yeah, the Dodgers, they just keep getting better. Their farm system is still great. It's getting better, it seems like, with time. Team keeps getting better. They're clicking on all cylinders. You have a rotation of, Trevor Bauer, who's been really good. Because I know you and I were really interested in how that was going to work out because of, no substance, and he can't increase his spin rate, which he's been known to increase his spin rate dramatically recently. And just in general, you have Kershaw, obviously. Kershaw's great. Not David Price. I know David Price is the bullpen, which is actually injured. But you also have Walker Buehler, Dustin May, Julio Urias. I know I just completely butchered that name. Sorry about that. But, their rotation is good. Their offense is good. They'll be fine. So, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Anything that we missed or anything you didn't tell me beforehand?
No, I think we covered everything that's been pretty big news the last couple of weeks when it comes to baseball.
Alrighty. So that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy the podcast. If you did enjoy the podcast, make sure that you share it all over social media. That helps us a lot. Comment down below on your thoughts and opinions. Like the video also. And make sure, most importantly, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell notification so you never miss an upload that I upload. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. This has been Clemente and Dillard, and we will see you guys on the next podcast.
See you guys.